For this project, we are going to create a traced vector version of the Art Institute logo in Adobe Illustrator. I have an example here of the finished product. It consists of two paths, one following the outside of the shape and a second path that is on the inside. Both are combined into a compound path, and if I move this over a little bit, you can see the outline of the original bitmap image that has very distinct pixelation and stair-stepping, whereas the vector version has perfectly smooth lines no matter how far you zoom in. So this is the project or the end result. I'm going to start from scratch here by creating a new file in Illustrator, File New, and calling it AI Trace. Everything else I'll leave at the defaults. Gives me a new file. I need to grab a copy of my bitmap image that I want to trace. So I'm going to switch over to my browser, and I've already loaded up the URL uv.net/ai/ai.jpg. Brings up this bitmap image. Right click to copy, switch back to Illustrator, edit, paste to drop the bitmap image in my Illustrator file here. I shift click a corner to size it without distorting it. This is important. Make sure you hold down the shift key just to make it nice and big. I want to make it a little bit transparent so I can use it just as a tracing underlayment, almost like an onion skin. So I want to lower the transparency or opacity. I click on the transparency panel, activate that, and then dial back the opacity to about between 30 and 40. Doesn't totally matter really, I just want it to be slightly faded. I also want this to be so that I don't accidentally select when I create my path. So I want to lock this object. To make this go away, clicking here. Object lock. The current selection will lock it, so even if I click, it does not accidentally get selected. You can undo that by going back to Object and selecting Unlock All. But I'm going to leave it locked for now. I switch to my pen tool. I want to choose a stroke color for the line of red. So I'm switching, clicking on the stroke color, which is currently not selected at all, and I'm picking just a nice intense red for the stroke color, and for the fill color, which is by default white, I actually want to turn this off so it doesn't interfere with my creating this outline of this shape. So now I'm ready to go. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to start at the bottom corner of the A right here, and I'm going to drop my first anchor point right here at this corner. Corner points are always good to drop anchor points. You see the little X, it's ready to start a new path. Click and let go. And I hold down the shift key to give me a perfectly vertical line. Click and let go. It starts my path here. Scrolling over because this is a perfectly horizontal piece. I hold down the shift key, click and let go. Hold down the shift key, click and let go. Now the next segment is a curved path, so I need a direction handle. I revisit the last anchor point, click and drag out. Now I hold down the shift key to make it perfectly horizontal, about this long. You have to practice how long this handle should be. A little bit of practice will give you the experience to kind of judge this. Click here where I transition from curve to straight line and make it long enough until this curve here matches nicely the template. Revisit this point to get rid of the direction handle, or I could actually leave it here right now because it's perfectly aligned with the next straight line. But if I click on that last anchor point again, it removes this direction handle because I want this to be a perfectly straight line and perfectly vertical. I hold down the shift key, click, and let go of both the shift key and the mouse key. Now I revisit, click and drag out the short little handle, holding down the shift key now to make it perfectly vertical. Tight radius means a short handle, long swoopy radius means a long handle. So for this tight radius I'm dropping one here where it changes direction. The curvature goes like this and then it changes curvature into the opposite direction. Drop an anchor here and draw a short direction handle to create this segment. My next anchor point is going to be all the way down here at this corner point. Click and drag out a very nice long handle until this curve section matches nicely the existing template. I need a sharp corner, revisit, click to get rid of the direction handle, scroll all the way down here. This is where the straight part ends and transitions to curve. Shift click to drop an anchor, revisit, click and drag. I hold on the shift key to make it perfectly line up with the existing line. Here it transitions from curve to straight. Click and drag to create a short handle that points directly into the direction of the continuation of the straight line up here. So I go to the zoom out a little bit, scroll up. This is my next corner point, perfectly straight line. Click and let go. Now the next part here, this is where we have to pay attention a little bit. This is all curves. Every segment is all curves. There's no straight line, so each anchor point we have on this path here, on this area of the logo, needs to have a direction handle, so we always need to click and drag, and we need to start with a direction handle by revisiting the last anchor point, clicking and dragging out fairly long because it's a very long smooth and it starts out in the direction that my next curve segment should start out in. My next anchor point goes here where it transitions from this upside curve to the opposite curve here, so roughly here. Click and drag out fairly long segment, fairly long direction handles. Next point is right here at the very center on the very edge. I click and drag. I hold down my shift key now to get a perfectly vertical direction handle because I know the line should be perfectly vertical here. It's always the tangent. The next anchor point is up here. Click and drag perfectly horizontal, holding down the shift key like so. Next anchor point goes right here. Click and drag. I hold down the shift key to make it perfectly vertical. Next anchor point is here where I transition from this outside curve to an inside curve. Very short handle actually to do this curve portion justice. Click and drag down here, very short curve again. Next anchor point is right here in the corner, kind of long handle to accommodate this long smooth curve. Revisit because we have a sharp corner. To get rid of the direction handle, scrolling over a little bit so I can see where I'm going. Just click and let go for this section, which is perfectly straight. Hold down the shift key, click and let go to get this perfectly horizontal piece. Now I need a curve with the direction handle. Revisit, drag out the direction handle, drop my next anchor point right here, click and drag, revisit because I have a sharp corner. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit by pressing Command minus so I can see where I'm headed here. And this is pretty much a straight line all the way down here where it transitions back into a curved segment. So I'm click and let go, click and revisit, drag out a short little segment here. Corner is my next point, slightly longer, revisit for a sharp corner. Shift click, perfectly vertical, shift click, perfectly horizontal, shift click, perfectly vertical, very short. Now here, this entire curve I'm going to accomplish by having an anchor point here and an anchor point all the way in this corner here. I do not want to have additional anchor points. I revisit, click and drag out the perfectly horizontal direction line. I may have to fine tune this a little bit later. This is my next anchor point here. Click and drag until the curve nearly matches. You may have to fine tune the handles slightly. If you hold down the command key, you get the tool where if the black arrow, if the black square pops up, means you can click and adjust one of these handles. So I'm holding down the command key or control key on a PC to adjust both sides of these handles until my curve is a very close match to the existing shape of my trace image here. Sharp corner, revisit this anchor point, click to get rid of the direction handle. Next anchor point goes down here where I transition from straight to curve. Click and let go. Revisit, click and drag to get the direction handle. I move my mouse directly over the starting point to close my path. This is important. You can see the little circle appearing next to my pen tool. That means it's ready to close my path. If I'm just nearby, it will just drop another anchor, but it will not close it. The path needs to be closed for the fill to work properly. So click and drag to close and finish this outside shape. Creating a second path here, up here. Click, click, and then let's see how many I need here. So click and drag up here, click and drag up here, and then just click on the starting point to give you this interior second path. Now I want to combine both paths because my shape is really made up of the outer path and the interior path. So I have this one. I need to select both of them with my selection tool. If I turn it on, it selects the inner one. I hold down my shift key to select the outer one. See the little black dot appearing? That means it sees the outer path. You have to be directly over it. Click on it to have both of them selected. Zooming out a little bit so both paths are now selected. I go to Object, Compound Path, Make. This creates a compound path that behaves in a certain way when I fill the color, when I fill the shape with a certain color. I can click here to reuse the last color so it's the same shade of red, fills it nicely and knocks out the interior shape here. So this is how a compound path deals with fill color. Interior paths knock out the fill color. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit by pressing Command plus or Control plus on a PC, and if I move to the side the shape slightly, you can see underneath is the original bitmap image that looks very pixelated, whereas our new vector shape looks perfectly smooth and is a perfect match. I press Command Z, just kind of move it back into place where it was. And this is the Art Institute logo trace project in Adobe Illustrator.